the relationship between real estate and what I did, I really look at what I did as optimization. Because people would always say, like, what do you do? Like, are you a trainer? No. Are you a nutritionist? No. Like, what I would look at is like the overall picture and try to help people optimize their life. Like everything outside of the gym, even the gym is a huge part of it. So, you're looking at functional medicine, lab testing, gut health, inflammation, hormones, sleep, stress, toxicity, like all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so what I started to realize is that actually I spent a long time working with professional athletes, and that was good, but it's stressful and tons of travel. And then I kind of went down this path on accident where I started working with more and more executives, business owners, like successful people. I kind of called them for a while, like my old rich fat guys, like because they were like made all this money and then they're scared, like, oh shit, I better change.
Right. I'm not going to be able to enjoy this if I
Right.
don't get my ass in gear, right?
Right. So they would kind of hire me and that became really good clientele. And then I started realizing I would always have these like entrepreneurial business conversations with them, and they kind of liked that, like I got it. I wasn't just like some bro at the gym,
Right.
like telling them to lift weights. I like understood the whole picture, and I could relate to them why they need to have energy and why they need to perform the way they do. So when I look at it, I've realized that like my passion is really optimization. Like anything you do, how can you do it better? How can you optimize your performance?
Yeah.
And I think real estate is something that a lot of people who have wealth or are trying to create wealth or want long-term wealth, they use that as a tool because it's optimal to create long-term freedom and long-term wealth.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I see the two combined, is they both play a role in optimization. And then if you look further at health and wellness, it's not cheap. Like I mean, you can do a lot like without money, but you kind of need money to do some things.
Absolutely.
If
you're, well, I think if you're going to do anything, you do it right.
Right.
So you got to put some money into it.
Right.
I mean, if you're starting out and you don't have a lot, you can train yourself, I guess. But like, you want to work with an expert.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that like, when I think of like, I spend a lot of money on food. I spend a lot of money on supplementation. I spend a lot of money on, probably twice a year functional medicine lab testing that insurance doesn't cover. I've used peptide therapies. I've used I've spent a lot of money on stuff that like the average person probably wouldn't spend money on. And so at the end of the day, like if you want to be optimal, like you probably have to invest in it,
Well, there's that level of just kind of day-to-day basic care, right? You go to your physician, you go to your family doctor, your primary doctor, whatever.
Right.
But in my experience, they don't quite dig in as much as some of the stuff you're talking about, right? Like I want to hear about peptide therapy, whatever you were saying. But, with blood tests, lab panels, all that kind of stuff, it digs deeper, and there is more to learn from, gut health, and there's lots of ways to test that you don't do at the normal doctor's office. So you're right. It takes money.
Yep.
Yeah.
It takes money. I mean, the biggest thing that people need to understand is that, like, just because you're absent of disease doesn't mean you're healthy. So, like, the standard doctor is just going to be like, okay, Carrie, like, boom, boom, boom. You got 7 minutes. Like, you don't have XYZ. You're good. Come see me next year.
Right.
But, like, they're not looking at wellness, so like wellness, optimization, and health are different, than what traditional medicine looks at. Traditional medicine simply looks at disease.
Yeah.
Do you have disease? Okay, then get out of my office. Like if you don't have disease, then why are you here?
Yeah. We're
right.
Take you to a specialist, and then it's that whole
100%. So it's like, it's just one of those things where I think people need to understand that like just because you don't have a disease doesn't mean you're healthy, doesn't mean you're optimal. Okay. And so my whole thing is like taking a look at the entire situation and saying like, hey, how can we feel, look, perform our best? And so if you're a mom, that's one thing. If you're a business owner, that's another. If you're a young athlete, that's another. But like there's some overlapping principles that must, apply to all those people. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is just most people, even like successful people with money, have never had the blood work done that I would suggest. Like never. Because like, oh, I went to my doctor, he's healthy. Oh, what are you talking about, man? My doctor's my friend, he knows what he's doing. It's like, all right, he knows what he's doing, but like he knows what he knows. Like your doctor studies disease, he studies his specialty at that. So if whatever he may be, like that's what he knows, but he has not taken time to like really look at gut health, to really look at hormones, to really look at toxicity, to really look at sleep. In fact, when I first started doing what I was doing in 2009, 2010, people's doctors thought I was freaking nuts. I mean, I would give people a list of lab work to go get, and their doctor would like fight with them and be like, this is stupid. Why are you spending money on this? This is BS. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That was 2009, 2010. By 2013, 14, I had over 50 physician clients that had personally hired me to work with their wife or their family or them or their kids or somebody, because they started to realize, oh shit, this is legit. Like there's actually science behind this. Like just because your doctor hasn't read the science doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know, and so it's one of those things where I think a lot of people just need to like take a step back. And the other thing, you know, with a real estate analogy that I tell people is that like you need to be your own general contractor. So like you need to treat your doctor and maybe your chiropractor, massage therapist, or maybe even a functional medicine doctor. You should be seeing all these people. And like each one of them might have something to add. Just like if you build a house, you're going to have HVAC, plumber, electrician, you know, whatever. So yeah. Yep.
That makes sense. So, I mean, if someone is kind of on the outside looking in at, okay, I'm curious about my health beyond kind of these checkpoints, right? That my doctor says are important, and as long as I'm good there. If they want to get into learning more, I want to ask like where you would have them start, or what kinds of things they do need to dig into. But real quickly, I want to make the point, and I, again, think you would agree, most people don't do that until something is wrong, until they feel it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So you can be preventative.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What would you have them look at?
100%. So traditional medicine is 100% reactive. Traditional medicine is 100% reactive, meaning that like you have a problem, you come to me, I see a lab that's off, I then give you a drug or you do a surgery. That's about it, right? Yeah. And thank God for traditional medicine, because I probably would have died if there wasn't traditional medicine, you know? Like I have my own story where traditional medicine really probably saved my life. So traditional medicine has a place, and it's freaking amazing. If I get in a car accident or if I have a freaking tumor on my liver, take my ass to the hospital. But if I want to be optimal, feel, look, perform my best, do not take me to the hospital, right? Like take me somewhere else where I can learn those things. So to answer your question, you know, where should a person start? I mean, here's the deal. Like, if you're willing to invest and you're serious, like the first place I would tell most people to start is getting functional medicine lab testing. And so, for example, you know, there's a guy in if you're in the Omaha area, there's a guy in Bellevue named Dr. Biscup. I refer all my people to. He's amazing for men or for women. He was a traditional trained MD family practice guy for years. He went back at a ton of training in like functional medicine lab testing and functional medicine. He'll look at everything. He'll use drugs where needed. He'll use supplements and diet where needed. But he's very open, and he's a guy that I mean, he's a doctor. He's in his 60s and you know, probably mid to late 60s, and he's always asking me like, "What are you learning? Like, what's new? Do you have any articles you can send me? Do you have any books? Do you have any podcasts?" Like, he's always asking me stuff. You know, it's very rare for a traditionally trained doctor in their late 60s to be asking anyone that, you know, much less somebody who's not a doctor, right? Yeah. But I've taught him a ton. He's taught me a ton, and there's respect there. So the first thing I would do is start with functional medicine lab testing, and that will look at all your hormones. That will look at inflammatory markers. That could look at gut health. That could look at, you know, a lot of times for men especially, but also women, you want to look at your lipid profile, like your cardiac heart stuff. One of the biggest things that people look at is just look at like total cholesterol, whereas like that's not a good marker really of anything. And so you want to break that down much further and get more detailed labs. You want to look at like particle count, particle size. You want to look at ratios. You want to look at just a lot more stuff than the average doctor is going to look at. So starting with functional medicine lab testing would be a great place to start. If you don't have that in your budget, then I think you have to start with diet. You know, like the next thing is starting with diet. And then from there, I think the next thing would be sleep. You know, so diet and sleep are like the first place everybody could start. Everybody wants to start with working out. They want to hire a trainer. But in reality, it's like get a baseline labs, eat right, start sleeping, and then get your workouts in check. And then from there, those things are very synergistic, and you're gonna get way better results.
You'll notice a difference.
Right.